Welcome. Brad's house. Nothing special. Just another dump in Long Beach. You know, I call home. All right, welcome back, you guys, in another episode of Brad's Disastered Garage, or Narina would like to say, none of your shit works. So, if you want to kind of go over what doesn't work, because she's got a point, that car doesn't have reverse. This car had a bent axle and bad rotors and bad brakes. Those we will be doing for you. It had bad fuel lines, and now it has brand new PFT. You guys are gonna kill me on that. Teflon lines, that's all done. It has some funky ejectors that I'm really just in a budget right now that divided amongst this project, and life and kids. It's kind of tough to spend a lot at all the times because I had these things set aside. Everybody knows this. You set this aside to do, and then this pops up, and you're like, ooh, ouch. And I had a huge pop-up that we don't even want to talk about that's just consumed a large volume of funds. And just a mistake. Y'all live and learn. Probably if I would have listened to Arena, I'd be a lot richer right now, but you know, sometimes don't listen. Listen, kids. Listen sometimes.
Don't listen or listen.
Listen, kids. Listen sometimes. Anyways, you guys all want to talk about the controversy over the front wheels. Yep, those are motorcycle tires. We'll go into a little discussions on those today. As well as we have the gaskets to hang the water pump. And again, some pieces for the steering shaft that I discussed before that we're gonna go over that I'm afraid I didn't get right. As you know, when you're ordering parts, especially parts for custom stuff, you think you got it right and you probably didn't. So I think we should probably just start at this end because there's not too many things I can actually do to this right now to move forward. I need to mount the front cam sensor right here and tighten up the Motion Raceworks pointer. I still need to dial in the pointer. I need to put my piston top dead center gauge in and bring it to TDC and then mark this pulley because it doesn't have marks on it so that the pointer is marked to the TDC of number 1, and that way when we shoot it with a gun it's all good and whatever. But besides that, I can get the cam sensor in, the water pump on, and some of the brackets for the power steering, but that's where I actually got to stop. I have RAM assist on this, and we can talk about more of that later, but RAM assist requires a high pressure, high volume power steering pump. All the power steering pumps that I have are factory power steering pumps. So I actually need to reach out to the company that makes the high volume, high pressure power steering pump that bolts to the LS mounts. And then I can attach the lines that I actually have to my power steering box. So that's one important thing that I don't have that I do need. The other thing that I don't have that I do need is, thank you, I don't have the drive-by wire loom. When I initially built this motor, it was supposed to be a 24X drive-by cable system. That is like the older motor style. After going through my head, I thought a cable would suck. I kind of like the drive-by wire because it goes into limp mode. If there's any problems, you really can't force it to do stupid stuff, which in this truck would be great. So I swapped to a 58 reluctor wheel, which has nothing to do with the drive-by wire on the motor, and a drive-by wire system. And now I need to go back to Holly and get that wire loom, which is different from the wire loom I got. Again, my fault. I just gotta call up and get that stuff straightened out. That's preventing this motor from starting. As soon as I put that wire loom on and the drive-by wire to the pedal, then it's ready to fire up. We got all the fuel lines finished. We already finished the fuel tank. I have the radiator right there, and I'm tossing back and forth on that right now because I have a really nice Durrell 4-core radiator that is super big and I'm sure would do more than the cooling I need. And then I have a really light one that's like a aftermarket aluminum one that I'm kind of almost leaning towards because of the size. So my idea is get everything in here and determine what I have left over before I put the radiator in. Besides this kind of poking through the bonnet or the hood, We do have to make a slight modification because of this area right here, but it's only above the hood by like this much. So this truck came with a cowl in these years. I think a cowl that I could get from the factory would actually look like it fit, and a cowl would be doing something versus the cowl that came on this truck didn't do anything but looks. So I think that's the position we're gonna go on that. Let's get started on this and talk a little about questions I've got about this, because this build was a long time ago and I probably didn't answer any of those questions, but I want to get the water pump started. I know I got those gaskets in that wonderful box. I'm not going to do that box opening stuff like surprise, surprise. No, the water pump gaskets, they're right there. These are cool. They're modular glass gaskets. They go like this and like this. This truck was built in 2009, and I built this truck because my other truck was a little too aggressive for when I had kids and I was playing around in the desert, and it was just more of a trail truck rather than a rock crawler. So my rock crawler got sold, as it happens when you have kids, and I built this truck. Now this truck was my work truck, which is the funny part, and I broke my back in a job site accident, and when I got out of the broken back part, I decided to just build this truck and slow life down and off-roading and just do like light trail stuff. Snap! And it all got done like all the other YouTubers did. Whatever. It worked though. I just did snap and it went in. I gotta try that more often.
The cars would have been done fast.
I know. Come on, car.
Oh, yeah.
Damn it! I'm gonna start throwing the parts at it. Maybe they'll just go in. Yeah, my bottomless pocket budget and my endless source of parts is coming to a close reality. It's alright. That's just life. You gotta budget with what you got and get done with what you can. Taking on 3 projects is annoying, I'll tell you that. It's nice when at least two are running. Then you don't have all these problems. When this one finally gets running, if I can keep from breaking it.
That's not likely with you.
I know. Terrible
I've
issue.
learned.
Horrible issue. Probably go to the doctor for that.
Couldn't even keep a water bottle nice.
Yeah, that's the case. That is the case. Couldn't keep a water bottle nice. That was good. All right, let's go back to talking about what this is then. So everybody keeps asking. This is a 5.7 liter cast iron block, aluminum head, LS9 cam. It's got nice valve springs. It's got massaged heads. Thank you CPR for massaging the heads. It's got shorty headers that are wrapped straight from eBay. It's got a great high ram poly intake that should kind of match or help the profile of the cam. I would love this motor to get to spin and make power up to about 7,400. That's, you know, we'll see that when we get to the tuning. It's got a turbo 400 back behind it that the toy shop built, and it's got all the goodies in it. The torque converter shop in Havasu makes hardened gears, hardened planetaries, the drums, and all the good parts. And I had them send all the good stuff over to the toy shop, and the toy shop put in all the goodies in the turbo 400. Now this is a 4-wheel drive, so it has to have a transfer case. The transfer case that's used in this car is a Divorce 205 out of a Dodge. So it's a Dodge transfer case attached to a Chevy motor, to a Chevy tranny, to a Chevy axle, to a Dodge axle, and a Toyota body.
And a fucking Toyota.
In Brad's backyard. I don't like the way that pole feels. Alright, so we're looking for all the alignment here. I do have the other bracket for the alternator, and I'm actually looking right now, like I hope that alternator and that bracket doesn't interfere with all of that. That's this big gaudy thing. It goes over here like this. And it does look like the alternator hits right where the freaking drive-by-wire is. So good, so good. Glad I didn't order the drive-by-wire electrical yet. I might be doing no drive-by-wire. The other alternative would be to spend money on an aftermarket bracket. I might get lucky. Let me find a few more bolts. I gotta like kind of wait from right here because I gotta do some bolt searching, and I'm almost positive when we put this guy in here like this, it interferes with the fuel line. So the fuel line has to be changed over. I think we can get away with this. So right now at minimum, I have to move this fuel line right here out of the way because it's in the way. And then this nitrous line just so happens to be in the way. So that nitrous line is gonna have to get moved out of the way, which I did put those on the bottom just to make them look cool. I can have them ran up here on top. So that's actually easy to change, but what I was worried mostly about, and it's gonna be fine, was a drive-by-wire, but we're good. So problem solved, just need to find bolts. What I wanna show you guys is the steering shaft. What we had in the truck before was this, and what I did wrong, and what you should know about drive shafts and any shafts is, and you guys are gonna laugh at me, the joints should always be aligned. So this is a joint, and this is a joint, and because these joints aren't exactly like this hard point here isn't lined up with that hard point there, it creates a screwy geometry. Like some nerd guy will tell you what it's wrong. So we went out and bought all new joints. Charlie, she don't need your help. And on this one, we got a double joint for this side. So a double joint on this side and a single joint on this side, but we're gonna make sure that we align these up with each other. So when these go together, these are aligned together and the joints spin correctly. So this is the shaft. It goes in here, and this goes on the other side. And the problem I'm having right now, and I'll show you guys in here, is I want to convert this shaft here to this spline. And what I got to do is, this is a hollow and it's not the right size to slide over it. I need to make a sleeve that goes from here to here and rosebud weld it in order to run this joint right here. And that'll keep me away from my steering shaft and give me all the space in the world. Plus, this now is in a very relaxed state. Now this has to actually go something like this, because if you look over here, that's this guy. And now this has got to line with that. So, shooting for is new joint, double joint, extend that steering shaft with this part. Thank you, Abby. And the new rod there. We're gonna actually reuse that support bearing and just weld it back on here, but that'll actually keep away from the header. So now, why am I not doing it today? Wrong side splines. So this is 3/4 by 36, and this is 5/8 by 36. So I have to reorder this joint. So again, you guys all love these things. You're working on a project, you order the parts you think is right, you get to that point where you can't do any more, and that's where we are at this one. Which I'm not mad at it, because I'm in no hurry. I want to have this done by Christmas. That was the goal anyways. We're not very far away. I got transmission cooling lines, the actual radiator cooler, the radiator and the cooling lines, and that's about it. And throwing the wiring on, which is super easy. The wire loom from Holly's a joke. So let's go to the hot rod, or the T-bucket, and talk about it, where we're at with it, and get it squared up. Snap! Now we're back to the T-bucket. So we discussed that the bent axle. Well, this axle 2 years ago, this time we were at SEMA, and my poor driving skills which seems to be showing a lot these days, hit the wall. And what it did is it just took the flange out of perfect. So like if you watched, my wheel was doing this. And so the whole, a year after that, I couldn't figure out why the car was like really not on rails, not driving, you know, straight. It kept on feeling woggly, I guess is what you could say. Well, the back axle doing this was the cause. So thank God I got this back, and thank you Cook's Machine in LA. They're the people that actually built this rear end. They were able to straighten it on their lathe, which was able to save me from buying another axle. So that was really nice. And now we get to put the axle back together. Super easy. So these axles, if they break, the bearing holds the axle in and it doesn't go shooting out. So like you see all those videos of like when the axle breaks and the axle goes sliding out, these don't do that. All right, now we can talk about this car and that car because everybody gets these two cars confused. So a little back history. That truck was bought in 06. It was a work truck from 06 to 07. Then I had the addiction of tearing it apart in 08. It was 2 years old, barely out of payments. And in 08, I destroyed it and turned it into a straight axle, whatever it is today. And then in 10, I got bored again and I was like, I seen these rat rods and they're really cool and I wanted to build one. And actually Lunch Money's car was like half done and he was going to shows and I was like, ooh, I want to build one. So that car started. And I built that car and finished it in 10 in a year. And it was all leftover parts. It's truly a rat rod, real steel body, 1928 Model A, custom built frame, some weird suspension that I had seen off-roading in the back. It's called quarter elliptic. I never seen it used on the front, and I was like, quarter elliptic, let's try it on the front. It actually works, it's cool. It's a giant off-road rear end, so it's a Dana 70 out of a Dodge pickup truck, dually, so it's a dually rear end. This car has had all sorts of motors in it. It started off with a small block Chevy 350 and a 350 tranny. And then it went to a built 377, which was like a D-stroke 383 with a turbo 400. That turbo 400 remained in it throughout all the other motors. After that motor, it went to a big block, and the big block was a 468 on 3 kits of nitrous. At that point, I got kicked out of the racetrack. And they weren't exactly happy with my, let's just say, fence post roll cage. So that was my first attempt of a roll cage. It's pitiful, it's horrible, the welds are bad, but you know, I drive around with it still and it looks cool, and I'm cool with that, but it's not safe to be on the racetrack. And they said, you can't drive that on the racetrack. In fact, all the racetracks around here said, get the piece of shit off the racetrack. It was running a 10-second pass. And it was fun. It actually felt safe. I know it looks horrible, but it would run 10s. And I would drive it there and drive it home on the freeway. So when I got kicked out, that was like 2013. I was like, I'm gonna build a rat rod that's specifically for fast drag racing. So like a drag racing fast rat rod. And that's when this car came into play. So what I had learned from that car about the frame rails and about certain things, I changed into this one. And I immediately spent the most amount of money on the cage. So once I kind of built the car, I had the cage professionally done by an NHRA spec person, and I had NHRA inspect it and actually certify it. So right there is NHRA certification. I actually do need to pay for the new rear, but it's a certified chrome ollie cage, and it's certified for 450s in the 1/8 and 750s in the 1/4, which it's never done. So, backstory to that, we built the car, and it was in 2016-17 that you saw it out in Hoonigan's, and I want to say that was the 3rd day that I had driven it. Well, we took it to the track, and it basically ran at Irwindale, our local track, 6.0s, 6.16s, 6.20s. It just ran in the 6s its whole life. And then we took it to the big track, and it would run 9s. And it ran 9s and 9s and 9s and 9s.
2 hours later.
And 9s and 9s and 9s. And that's all it's ever ran. So when we took it to SEMA, I bent the rear end and I fought it going straight, and I had hurt the motor really bad from doing all the burnouts. I kind of had to stop and go regroup. So the regroup was a new motor, which is actually smaller and gonna make the same amount of horsepower, but just a more versatile horsepower with less torque. And then a change in the spring rate in the back in order to get weight transferred, as well as fixing the axle, repairing the brakes, and doing all the general maintenance to get it back on the track. And that's where we are here today. So, axle's in. We're gonna go ahead, unbolt all these, replace these terrible looking hats, replace these terrible looking brakes, put this thing back together on its brand new slicks, and we're ready to go racing. What?
What happened?
Just like more parts you ordered that don't come the way you think or expect. So these are the brake pads I have on the car, and for some reason they sent me one set, like one side, that don't even match. So the rotor's right. So I got the rotor on, the rotor's ready to go on. I'm ready to put the brake pads on. I know I can get these brake pads at AutoZone. I don't have to order them through where I ordered this place for. So I can run to AutoZone and get the brake pads. That's not a problem, that's holding me back. I'll send these guys back. Good thing for trying. But we're out of things I didn't order right to do to get us further forward. So bye guys, and we'll see you next time.